Good afternoon. This is Carla Sutter with Synergy HomeCare, and excited to be able to present this webinar for April. The webinar is on health benefits of pet ownership. So excited for this topic, and this is going to be a very visual webinar, so I hope the majority of you are online, not just calling in, but this will be recorded and up on YouTube within the next 24 hours. So if you are not able to be by your computer and see some of the pictures as we're moving through, I encourage you to do so and share the video recording as well. The information provided in this webinar is not to be used in place of medical intervention and consultation. You should not take up any new exercise or change any treatment plan without first talking with your healthcare team. When speakers speak, they always need to share any conflicts of interest or bias that they may have in the presentation material. So I felt it is only appropriate that I would share that I am myself a pet owner. This is Bailey. She is one of two animals that I have. Harley is not quite as photogenic, so we use Bailey in this one. But again, I'm a longtime pet owner, so there may be some bias in how I present this material. This and these are the daily stressors that we experience in our normal life. Bills to pay, traffic to live through, work, caregiving, all of the things that are happening in our world. Every day we are experiencing these stressors that take a toll on our emotional and physical health. But now take a moment to breathe. And if you are like me and are like the hundreds of thousands of people that own animals, own pets, or enjoy spending time looking at our Facebook feeds with all of the pet videos, you will experience what I am right now, which is a relaxation that I can feel in my breathing, in my pulse, in my heartbeat. The difference between friends and pets is that friends we allow into our company and pets we allow into our solitude. I thought it was a really powerful quote because the reality is, while pets and what we're going to talk about today certainly are only one piece of the things that make our daily lives enjoyable, that bring us peace and support. But this is so true when we think about that pets also are our confidants. We share with them things that we don't want to share with others, and often that we ourselves don't want to have to kind of say out loud to anybody else who could tell that secret, with no judgment, with just the same kind of raw naivete and innocence that they do with every other aspect. And really that is, I think, one of the key pieces as to why they do bring us so many benefits, many of which have not even begun to be explored. So let's talk about how pets are involved in our daily life. In millions, the number of U.S. households that own a pet by type, small animals, 6.7 million. Dogs, 60 million. Cats, 47 million. Reptiles are even more than saltwater fish at 4.7 million. These numbers share and show why we are having this kind of conversation and why so much research has been done on this very topic. and the number of US households that own a pet by type in millions. Dogs are 89 million. Cats are 94 million. So who knew that cat people are bigger than dog people? And freshwater fish, even more. So the number of animals that we have are incredible. But let's talk about the pet benefits by the numbers. Pet owners are healthier. The research has shown that there are fewer visits to the doctors. 132.8 million pet owners visit a doctor, 0.6 times less than the average non-pet owner, resulting in a cost savings of $11.37 billion. With those type of numbers, I think we should begin to have a tax write-off for pet ownership. Don't think that will get very far, but truly the savings that we are seeing as a country, and this is just in the US, are huge. Reduced obesity is just one area. So 20 plus million dog owners who walk their dog 5 or more times a week show a lower incidence of obesity, resulting in a savings of $418 million. Again, there are other things that will get us out of the house, but probably not in the numbers that pets do. So what I want to do is start going through some of the medical benefits that we're seeing with animals. And truly, as we go through and you're listening to some of the benefits, take a moment to really kind of think about the pictures as well, because it is not just the human contact to animal contact. It's not just the touching of the fur, the licking that occurs, that from hopefully from the dog to you or the cat to you, but it is really just even looking at these pictures. It is why, and I don't have the statistic, but it is why probably the pet videos and animal videos on Facebook and YouTube probably have some of the highest viewership rates than any other type of video. Because the value that it provides to us in our daily life, particularly as things are more stressful. We are presently in a very stressful time with everything that's happening in the world, and it is not by coincidence then that we ourselves are turning to those kind of YouTube videos of animals, and that we're seeing postings. I get it on my own feed where people will just say, for a break in today, here's a pet, and just a picture of a cat or a bunny or a dog that shows up. While pets are not your pass to eat what you want and throw out your gym membership, having a pet can certainly help manage several health concerns. In one study of 240 married couples, pet owners had lower blood pressure and lower heart rates during rest than people who didn't have a pet. So this was not comparing single people to married people. So there was a recognition that the coupling itself had some value, but comparing married couples of pet owners and non-pet owners, and even with that kind of same similarity, again, lower blood pressure, lower heart rates. According to a 2007 study out of UCLA, researchers provided therapy dogs for patients hospitalized with heart failure. And after just a 12-minute visit, patients exhibited improved cardiopulmonary pressures, healthier neurohormone levels, and less anxiety. 12 minutes of time. What an impact, and what an incredible value that we are starting to do this type of research. Because if you think about years ago, even going back 15 years ago, probably, if not farther, we never allowed animals into a hospital setting, into any kind of health setting. But this kind of research is certainly increasing and enhancing the environment that we are providing acute and chronic care in, because the recognition of what the value is so key. So again, 12 minutes showed that kind of value. A study from 2009 found that people who had owned a cat at some point in their lives were 37% less likely to die of a heart attack than those who hadn't. Again, pretty incredible numbers when we're looking at that. We've already talked a little bit about this, but pet owners do have less obesity. A study looking at 2,000 adults found that pet owners who walked their dogs had lower rates of obesity and were more physically active than those without pets. Now again, people can go out on their own without their pet and do these walks, but the reality is that we as a culture, we as just kind of our own human nature and our behavioral habits don't often do that on a regular basis if there's not somebody pushing us to do that. And again, particularly because so many people are living in settings where they can't just open the back door and have the animal go out, and they have to be walking them. Again, it is a forced kind of exercise program. I don't think typically we think about it that way, and it's probably good, because I think we would probably have some resentment if we really felt like walking the dog was kind of our forced exercise program. But the value that is just happenstance from it is huge. Pet owners have better mobility in their golden years. Another National Institute of Health study looked at 2,500 adults aged 71 to 82 and showed that adults who regularly walked their dogs had more mobility inside the house even than non-pet owners. Again, anything that is allowing us to use our muscles, to use our mobility, is going to aid. And we'll talk a little bit more about, again, how for seniors, the value of having an animal in their home not only provides the increased independence that comes from increased mobility and some of those safety factors, but in other ways as well. Our bodies go through physical changes in the few minutes we spend with a dog or a cat or even watching fish swim. Again, we talked about that a few slides ago. 12 minutes of time was all it needed in a hospital setting for people who had just experienced a heart surgery to see the effects. Very quickly, we begin to feel calmer and less stressed. Cortisol, which is a stress hormone, is shown to lower just with the few minutes that we spend with a dog or cat, or again, even watching fish swim. Serotonin, which is a feel-good chemical that our body naturally makes, actually rises. Now, serotonin can be given in a medication, and often is. However, the natural quote-unquote dosing through pet interactions certainly goes down better. Now, this is where, again, if someone is taking serotonin in a pill form, that don't turn in your prescription and go to the Humane Society and trade it in for a cat. But it is certainly something to begin to explore when we start looking at the other things we're using in our lives to kind of reduce our stress. And are there things that we can add on to then over time be able to reduce? It also releases calming endorphins known as oxytocin. So you can even just see in this picture, first of all, the cat certainly looks very relaxed. So I'm assuming his cortisol is reduced as well. But you can just see, even if this is an actress, which I don't think it is, you can just see kind of that relaxation just in the slack of her facial muscles and kind of just how her hands are being held, how, again, whole body changes with the introduction of an animal into our lives. Animals keep us in the here and now. And this was something really interesting as I was kind of doing some of this research. There's certain things that you recognize just for kind of facts. You know, we've all had that experience of having an animal in our lap and petting it and just kind of feeling that relaxation. But some of these things, you know, you don't really think about as to what the benefit of having an animal in our lives does. And this was really one of the key things that I took away, that animals keep us in the here and now. They live for the moment, which, for example, those who live with depression or anxiety, or seniors who are often fearful of the what ifs that are happening in their lives, the loss of control due to the deaths of family members around them and friends, due to their own physical condition and what's happening. But these animals' sense of present can truly be lifesavers, because it really forces us to also live in that moment, in that time. Animals can also help manage loneliness. Again, dogs, for example, focus their schedule to the owner, and they don't take a day off. So they really force us to have to engage, even if it is just with that animal, but move out of our routine. The routine of caring for an animal can provide structure and purpose. Getting out of bed, for instance, to an empty house becomes less so when your pet wants you to be with them. How many people, again, remain in bed, sleep throughout the day because there's really nothing to come out for? And kind of the leaving that cocoon of and warmth and security of the bed only brings them into a part of the home that may be too painful, with reminders of who else they shared that home with, or the loneliness they feel when they sit down at the table. Most animals will be happy, particularly dogs, would be happy to share your mealtime with them, even if they're just at your feet. Socialization is a key aspect. Pets connect people. Often people are more comfortable starting a conversation with someone around their pet than any other topic. We've seen all the romantic comedies where the young man who's wanting to date somebody borrows the cute dog from their friend so that they can go to the dog park and meet that young woman that they had eyed, but who owns a dog. It's great in the movies and Hollywood, but the reality, it happens every day for us. We are much more comfortable connecting and talking with someone around an object, whether it's a baby, whether it's an animal, and starting those conversations, than if there's no bridge item between us. And so really, pets in that way become that bridge item. It's something that we can focus our attention on, and both have already from that knowledge have something to connect with. The act of even having to get out to purchase dog or cat food or other supplies may be the only way that people remain involved and connected in their community. And it isn't just the furry pets that help. This was really interesting. In a 2016 study that was shown in the journal Gerontology, elderly people who were given 5 crickets in a cage became less depressed after 8 weeks than a control group. So again, even those simple acts of caring for something makes a difference. So it really, again, connects us in a way. Pets are great icebreakers. The power of animals and the recognition that they play so much more of a role in our lives than simply what they started at in terms of, farm animals or helpers around the home and in industry is certainly seen as we have seen the increase in how animals are being used as both therapy and service animals, and a recognition and an acceptance in daily life that these pets are brought into environments that used to be really, again, just for the humans. There's a couple of different categories of animals, and these are important to understand, particularly as we're going to talk a little bit about therapy animals that are utilized in health facilities, etc. But service animals are kind of the initial starting point where we started to see animals be integrated into kind of public places. A service animal is a guide dog, a signal dog, or any animal who's trained to provide assistance to an individual with a disability. Service animals must be allowed to access all buildings. Service animals are often picked for their breed and the characteristic that is then matched with what it is anticipated and expected to do for that person with a disability. To be categorized as a service animal, the person helped must have a life-limiting disability. So not that they have a terminal illness, but their day-to-day life activities are limited due to their disability or can be disrupted. The dog must be trained to recognize and respond to the handler's disability by doing either work or tasks. Maybe it is recognizing when traffic is coming across the street or the sound of the traffic signal. It may be that the dog or animal is trained to recognize the precursor to a seizure and alert the individual that a seizure may be occurring so that they can be in a safe environment. They may be able to recognize when somebody's blood sugar is at a dangerous level and, again, give signals so that either that individual or their support people can intervene. And in addition, the dog must not cause a disruption in public. And that's why, again, service animals have those little vests on that say, please don't touch, I am not a pet. While for that individual, they often become a pet in a way of that incredible bond, but they are not to be seen as a pet where you come up and play with them and pet them and disrupt, because they are on duty 24/7. Therapy animals, on the other hand, are pets that are trained to interact with many people other than its handler to make people feel better. They do need to be trained to behave safely around all sorts of people, but they don't have the same public access rights as a service dog. If you have been in the hospital and you've had a visit from a Labrador Retriever, that is a therapy animal. They are trained not to be jumping up on people. They are, well-trained animals, but their goal is just to make people feel better. Back in Minnesota at the Fairview Health System, there was a kind of famous dog. It was a lab that would carry a little basket in its mouth that had little notes in it. And the handler would take him from room to room, and the individual could kind of reach into the basket and pull out a little cheery note. And it also had the picture of the dog on it. That dog, again, visited so many people and brought such joy, not just on the children's ward, but really for everybody. Again, therapy animal and utilized for all. We also now have another category that's called an emotional support animal. These are animals that, again, is a pet that provides disability relieving emotional support to an individual, but is not necessarily trained to do so. Service dog laws do not allow emotional support animals to be out in public places that dogs are normally prohibited. So it can be an important residential companion for people with disabilities, but it's not an animal that if there's a private environment where dogs should not be going, that they don't have the same access rights as a service animal. But these would be animals that, again, the person may be dealing with some depression and some anxiety, and while the animal itself is not triggering response or responding to something and doing work for the person, their presence with that individual is enough. It gives that person a sense of purpose and meaning and caring for something who is caring back to them. It is doing all of those things with the serotonin and the reduction in cortisol that on its own can be an emotional support animal. What's interesting is we're starting to see some public environments allow for these emotional support animals to come in and have certain rights similar to service animals. So I recently saw a application for a apartment complex where if the individual had a emotional support animal and had documentation from a physician, psychiatrist, psychologist that stated that this was an emotional support animal to that person, they would reduce or eliminate any pet deposit. So that's a big shift in terms of how we're incorporating not just service animals into our lives, but also these ESAs, emotional support animals as well. There are two means of refuge from the miseries of life: music and cats. Now, if you're a dog person, you would probably switch out cats for dogs. And the reality is we could do a whole psychological webinar on who is a cat person, who is a dog person, and how neither often will meet in the middle. But the reality is music and animals make a difference. And we have our webinar series set through July, but coming in the fall, we will be having a webinar talking about music and art therapy and how, we can introduce these pieces into our lives and the lives of our clients and family members who need that added support with very simple things. We don't have to be the best musician or artist, but it also, this thought recognizes, again, that there are so many things outside of kind of the typical and normal health treatments and interventions that we need to begin to recognize and incorporate. So, and that brings us to Sarah and Freedom. Sarah is our designated manager at the Synergy HomeCare of Rockville, Maryland office, and she has Freedom, who is a therapy dog, and they incorporate Freedom into the lives of their clients as part of their care planning for clients who really, again, who enjoy animals and who could really benefit from that visit. And we're seeing more and more of our offices in home care introduce therapy animals into the lives of our clients through visits and through the care planning that we do, recognizing all of those benefits that we've talked about. We can't talk about kind of pets and kind of living animals without also talking about that there is a powerful intervention that can happen with what I'm calling pet substitutes. They have some of the aspects of what pets do, which is, the soft fur, the big eyes, those type of things that we often go to. But sometimes introducing that live animal doesn't work. One is because they cannot be available to patients 24/7 when a need arises. So there's been a lot of research at the same time we're looking at how animals assist us in our health benefits, but how these pet substitutes can as well. Animatronic companion pets are designed to offer comfort, companionship, stress reduction, and fun to elders. And really to individuals of all age, but they've really been introduced the most with using research around seniors, particularly in facilities, although we're starting to see it now for us bringing it into a home setting and a one-on-one type of visit. I always find that it's interesting that whenever I am going to be presenting on a topic upcoming, that I must be more alert and aware of news that's coming over the radio and the TV that tends to be related to this very topic. And when I was driving on Sunday and I was listening to National Public Radio, there happened to be a series talking about really pet substitutes. They weren't talking about it in the same way that we're talking about it today, but the message was very similar. And there was actually some research that has been done on Furbies. Furbies were popular a few years ago, and they're just these cute little kind of egg-shaped animals with big eyes and big ears. Again, the designer of the Furby, who is actually on this news channel, really talked about what they did. They actually looked at animals, cats and dogs, and measured the distance between their eyes and measured the distance from their eyes to their ears, and really incorporated all of that into this animatronic companion pet, so that the same type of attraction to it would remain. They did a study that, again, I think speaks to that if you don't have access to a live animal, if there's a reason that somebody is going to kind of shy away from being around a real cat or a dog for whatever reason, that you can do some introduction of these type of pets. And one of the things that was interesting that really makes one of the biggest differences is that when the animatronic substitute makes sounds and reacts to things in the environment, that is when it has the most value to the person that they are visiting, quote unquote visiting. So for instance, Furbies will begin to use language. And that they can't respond by one question and then responding back. They do use language that expresses certain emotions. And one of the ways they do this is when they are put upside down. If you turn a Furby upside down, within a short period of time, that Furby will start to say in its little Furby voice, I'm scared, I'm sad, turn me over, and begin to cry. So what they did is they did a study with children. They took a Furby, they took a gerbil that they named Jerby, and they took a Barbie doll. And they had the children hold them upside down. So they began with the Furby, and they had the children hold the Furby upside down to see how long it would be for that person to be uncomfortable, which meant that there was a connection to that object. And when it came to the Furby, it was about 10 seconds when the Furby began to speak and talk about being scared and talk and cry. The children became very uncomfortable and turned him back over. The gerbil, which it turned out really was a hamster, they bought the wrong thing, but the hamster, it took a little convincing for them to hold it upside down, and the researchers did say that no hamster was harmed during that research project. But once the children did hold the hamster upside down, it was even quicker because, again, it was squirmy, and they could just tell that it didn't want to be held upside down. So that was about 4 seconds. So again, Furby was about 10 seconds, Jerby was about 4 seconds. And then Barbie, the children held Barbie upside down with no concern at all. And the only reason that Barbie got turned back straight and put down was because the children's arms got tired. So really, if they had a way to just hold Barbie upside down without tiring themselves out, Barbie could have stayed upside down forever. What it really showed was, again, that interaction between the human and this pet substitute, as long as there is some reaction, something that is similar to what happens in a real animal or a real person, we treat it very similarly. We're seeing these type of animals, whether it's a Furby, whether it's a cat, and those are being used in facilities all around the country, or this seal, which really the seal began in Japan and was utilized with seniors in Japan, and then became a national, kind of international sensation, that programs that serve dementia and Alzheimer's patients are using these robotic therapy pets to soothe the agitation and anxiety that can accompany the disease. Again, one of the biggest benefits is that they're available to patients 24/7 when the need arises. And oftentimes, particularly with those who are living with dementia and Alzheimer's, their sleep patterns are disrupted. So, we're not having a therapy animal coming in at 3 a.m. But the staff can bring in one of these animatronic kind of therapy pets to aid in the reduction of agitation and anxiety that could lead to them requiring increased staff time as well as increased medication use. One benefit that staff see is that it really allows the client to be a caregiver and to have a renewed sense of meaning and purpose. And I think that is so key for all of us, that what allows us to really function at our highest level is that we have a sense of meaning and purpose, and that we really want to care for somebody and something. And when we lose that ability because we've lost some of our cognitive abilities, our mental acuity, or our physical limitations make it difficult to either be a caregiver or be seen as someone who has value in terms of what we can offer. Having something that kind of looks up at you and as you're petting it is reacting to that gives that person an ongoing reason to be connected to the environment. We need to, though, think outside the kennel. Certainly we're seeing now with therapy animals and emotional support animals, and even with service animals, that we're moving beyond just dogs. That we're recognizing that there's a lot of different animals that can bring value because of the same things we're talking about. Because they interact back, they respond in a way, just the action of kind of petting something reduces that stress. So there's a lot of different animals that are being utilized. Bunnies, for example, have been used with senior residents at a variety of memory care units. Handling a bunny, for example, is light and huggable and may be easier to manage than other animals. So we have to kind of look at and think about other small animals that could be an option as well for us. Often they have less cost associated with them, less injury or need for visiting a veterinarian. They are not requiring the same heavy level of care. You're not having to walk them in the same way. They manage on their own. There's not a lot of cleaning up to do with these small animals on a regular basis. So it is an option not only for those to be brought into a facility and a community, but for people who want to incorporate an animal into their lives, but may not be able to manage a dog or even a cat. So then I think the big question is, this sounds great. I think I'm going to bring my mom a present, and I'm going to get her a dog, or I'm going to get her a cat. My biggest caveat for this entire webinar is never surprise anyone with an animal as a gift. No matter what their age, no matter what their ability, a pet is a big decision that we have to think through more than just the basis of does that person like animals. There's a lot of things that go into it. So the benefits of pet ownership may be better accomplished through regular pet visits. Again, we saw in the earlier slide that 12 minutes of time had a huge impact on people's physical well-being. So we don't have to have a sense that if I don't have a dog living with my mom, she's not going to gain any of these benefits. So think about how you can incorporate a pet visit into someone else's life without incorporating their own animal. Maybe it's that your parent or the senior in your life is healthy enough to be able to be a babysitter or a pet sitter for you when you're out of town for a day or two, and they get to enjoy that. Maybe it's that you bring over your animal to them for a short visit. Particularly, again, animals being bridge kind of items allow us when there's not a lot to talk about or when conversation is difficult because that person may have cognitive changes that make kind of ongoing conversation stressful, or the ability to remember things creates such an anxiety for them because they recognize that they don't have the same abilities they used to. bringing over an animal to them as part of the visit really is a relief for the visit. It takes that person off the hook of having to kind of converse when they really struggle with that. And for you as the family member, family caregiver, it takes that burden off of you to feel, what am I going to do during the time with my mom when she doesn't want to talk, or she's struggling to speak, or maybe she has experienced a stroke recently, and the kind of physical task of speaking is difficult. We have to think long term. We have to think the type of animal and how long their life is going to be. Birds, for example, can live for 50 years. Not the best animal to bring into the life of a senior, as much as they may love birds, unless you yourself want to then be the legacy caregiver for that animal at the point that a parent passes away or no longer can provide care for them. So we have to think long term. We have to think, is their housing situation going to change? If we're looking at moving them into a senior facility, what is their pet policy? Many senior facilities are now allowing pets to come into the apartments. Some will even incorporate pet care into the daily routine, where others require that person to be able to either do that care on their own or bring in an agency such as Synergy to incorporate pet care as part of the rest of the tasks that caregiver is providing. We have to think about the diagnosis and what their abilities are today versus moving down the line. Someone who may be very mobile today, but we know quickly due to the disease progression may not be mobile, may not be able to take that animal for a walk, and be able to pick up after them, probably not the right animal or the timing. What's their cognition? Are they able to recognize when an animal is in need of assistance, when they need to eat, when they need to go out? So think about how, whether it's today or as we progress through the disease, is there going to be a change where they're no longer going to be able to manage that? And then also think about the financial costs. Again, animals can be very expensive depending on the animal that one chooses. Does that person already struggle financially to purchase their own food, to purchase their own medications, to manage keeping their house payments and their insurance up? We don't want to add another financial burden. And in the reality, even if somebody else is paying for it, would that money be better spent to be used for something else for that individual versus the animal itself? What happens when the animal gets sick? We may be able to afford the food, but can we afford a vet visit, which is, both is unfair then for that animal if they're not able to get treatment. So lots of different things to think about. And again, there's two sides to the care coin. There's the benefit of having this animal to get somebody kind of motivated through the day, to get them up and out, to provide the care. But we have to be realistic about the abilities of that senior or the person that we're bringing this animal to. Does the care overwhelm them? Is it overly burdensome to them versus being a benefit? So we always have to look at both sides of the coin when it comes to that. So I hope that you all have some questions, some thoughts. I would love to hear some of your experiences with animals and how they have helped, so we can share that with the audience as well. If you enjoyed today's webinar and you look forward to future ones, please like the Synergy Home Care Facebook page to be kept current on all of the upcoming webinars and articles about caregiving and seniors. You can go onto the Synergy website, scroll down to the bottom of the page and enroll in our newsletter, and you will also be informed of all the upcoming webinars that we're doing. I'm excited to share the next 3 webinars that we're going to be looking at. In May, we're going to be talking about successfully planning and achieving your short and long-term goals. In June, we're going to be talking about minimizing risk and enhancing independence with home modifications. This is a really great topic for all of us. There's things that we can do in our own environments at all ages that are really able to make it just a safer environment, make it easier for all of us to navigate and to utilize and to not spend a lot of time focusing on certain things and being able to kind of just let something be just because of the way we've redesigned the house. And in July, we're going to be going and talking about understanding the stages of Alzheimer's and the impact on caregiving. So we're really going to look at how the different stages of Alzheimer's, at those different stages, what level of care do people need? What are the interventions? What are the equipment or home modifications that we can incorporate into each of those stages? And as I shared, coming in fall, we will be doing a webinar on art and music therapy. So when you come for the May 17th webinar, you will get to see when that one is coming up. You can also talk with your local Synergy Home Care office, and they can share with you all of the upcoming dates for the webinars, as well as being able to present one of these topics at a local environment if you're wanting to have a more individualized program. To learn about how Synergy Home Care Services can assist you, a client or a patient or someone you're caring for, please go on and look us up at synergyhomecare.com. And to receive a certificate of attendance, please contact me at Carla Sutter at synergyhomecare.com, and you will receive that via email. As I shared, all of our webinars within 24 hours of the presentation will be out on our YouTube page. And I encourage you to share these with your colleagues, with family members. Oftentimes, the webinar itself, the video itself, can be a great conversation starter, particularly if you're starting to have maybe more difficult conversations with family members or seniors. It's a great way to kind of break the ice, talk about it from outside of the personal, share the information, and then have a conversation about how that person thinks that it could help them, or things that you could do to put in place what's been discussed on that webinar. So those are ways that you can utilize that. Going to wait for any questions that are coming up around animals and how they benefit us in terms of our health and wellness. I do encourage you to go to the Facebook page, the Synergy Home Care Facebook page, and you will get to see Sarah and Freedom in a video that she recorded to learn a little bit more about Freedom and how they use him in their care with their clients. So thanks for the question. If someone is looking for how maybe some of our other locations are using any therapy animals, just feel free to email me. And once I find out a little bit more about your location, then we can connect you with the local office and talk about the resources that local office is providing. I have a feeling that all of the puppy, kitty, and bunny pictures have lulled everybody into such a peaceful state that they are not wanting to write any questions right now, because everybody is in such a great state of kind of calm. Everybody's cortisol levels are low, their serotonin levels are high. So I really appreciate all of you joining us today, talking about this subject. Again, think about in your own family, for your own clients, how incorporating aspects of animals into their day-to-day life can be a benefit for their own health, for the management of the care that they are receiving. And also, again, we didn't talk about the benefit to the animals themselves, but these pets, dogs, cats, bunnies, really, again, love to have that attention. And it is really a mutual beneficial relationship that happens. So we are not just taking from these pets, but we are giving back just in the care and the love and attention. The question was, are there some programs that place older dogs and cats with seniors? In different communities, there are a variety of programs that will either bring in animals for short periods of time or do some special adoption programs with some of the facilities, et cetera. There's also associations for pet therapy. So really the best way, because each community is unique, is to put in either pet therapy programs in your city or to put in special adoption programs for seniors or disabled. And there are some programs. I do know that there is some veteran programs that will specifically kind of work with some animals that then they place with clients who have, for instance, PTSD. In fact, the Department of Veteran Affairs is actually looking at doing some research right now on using animals when vets come back from active duty, particularly if they are in a hospital setting for a period of time, incorporating pets into their daily treatment plan. Someone wrote, yes, sadly, many clients are not able to afford to care for pets. Any thoughts? Yeah, absolutely. And that's where when I talked about that pets having pet ownership is not always the best option for everyone. Then it's kind of looking at, are there some animals that, again, are much less expensive, still provide both a visual and, even if it's not an animal that you would hold for long periods of time, but certainly can be taken out, petted, cared for in a very simplistic way, to be able to do that. Certainly some hamsters, gerbils, things like that are going to be much less expensive. Unfortunately, have a lower live rate, so that they may not be something that a family would be caring for years later. Less expensive, not going to the vets, so veterinarian. So definitely looking at that, or being able to, again, incorporate more of a therapeutic program into the life, or connect them with some volunteers who may bring in an animal, maybe a senior, like a high school senior, or somebody, a child, Eagle Scout, things like that, who may be incorporating some of their visits with an animal into that person's home if financially it is not something to take on. If somebody is able to manage the care, but the cost is an issue, we are seeing more and more programs where the Animal Humane Society will adopt out senior cats or cats that may have some health issues and have some subsidies for paying for the care and helping with some of the food costs. Many more veterinarians are doing some low-cost vet care. So there are some programs, because again, all of these are seeing the value that can come and trying to ensure that it is not just those who have financial means that can benefit from it. If anyone on the line is part of a program that does incorporate pets into seniors' homes or those who are living with disabilities, I would love to hear from you. So again, you can email me at carlasutter@synergyhomecare.com, and we can talk about how that can be utilized with the clients that we care for as well in the community. So again, thank you so much for all of your time. Please don't hesitate to email me with any additional comments or questions. Would love to be able to have that conversation, connect you with your local office, and look forward to seeing all of your names come across when we have our next webinar in May. Thanks again. Bye-bye.